Okay, so we've dealt with business investment visas. Now let's talk about the capital investment visa scheme here. So it's a program that was introduced in 2003, I think it was, revised in 2009. And the idea is that you have to invest 10 million Hong Kong dollars into qualifying investment asset classes that are all related to Hong Kong, because this is for Hong Kong's benefit, not for other jurisdictions' benefit. Once you get approved, you get a 2-year period of stay, which is then extendable every 2 years for 7 years. And then once you get past the 7-year mark, you've got an application to, you've got the opportunity to make an application for either the right of abode or unconditional stay. In either case, at the end of 7 years, if you adjust into these statuses, then you will be able to uplift your $10 million investment. So things to bear in mind about this program is that once you qualify, your family, that is your legal spouse and married children under 18, get dependent visas. You have to have invested in certain types of investment assets, and you need to have owned the funds that are going, or the assets that are going to be used to put this money into Hong Kong for 2 clear years before you make the application. And you need to also, in addition to $10 million, you need to be able to show that you've got additional funds to finance your life here without having to rely on the return on the investments that you make under the Capital Investment Entrant Scheme. Investments are Hong Kong financial assets only of a variety of different types, which the Immigration Department lists. Real estate was removed from the equation in 2010 when they changed the quantum from 6.5 million to 10 million. And in order to maintain your eligibility for this visa status, the ring-fenced account that holds the assets effectively has to be certified as being untouched each time that you make your application for the extension. So if you've maintained the asset portfolio and you've got a certificate to that effect, then the Immigration Department will grant you the extension with no questions asked. Now, what's interesting about this program is that it's attracted a lot of attention from the Chinese, who have effectively come in and really taken good advantage of it. There are other nationalities clearly that take advantage of it too, but in 2004, Jake Van der Kamp said this. He said, "Let us get it straight about this initiative to give foreigners ID cards if they bring a certain amount of money with them. It represents a complete misunderstanding of how our balance of payment system works. Foreigners who come do not bring Hong Kong dollars. They don't have them with them at home. They bring their own currencies and we then exchange them for Hong Kong dollars. This results in our holding their foreign currency denominated money, which we then spend in their own countries. What's the benefit to us? Nothing." So you can conclude for yourself what that's all about, but I thought that was quite provocative, so I captured it all those 10 years ago now. So, right, so moving on. So who can qualify? Well, foreign nationals, except all the usual suspects, residents of Macau and Taiwan, Chinese nationals with PR overseas, or stateless people holding PR overseas with proven re-entry facilities in those countries. I've never seen any types of applicant of the last type, to be honest. But there you are. Those are the qualifying nationalities. The foreign exchange issues at the moment, the current account between Hong Kong and China ostensibly precludes the mainlanders from participating under the program. But in actual fact, have we seen the way around that is to go to Gambia and go to Vanuatu, and whilst it might not work in the context of the general employment policy, it seems the Immigration Department routinely accept that jurisdiction for the purposes of third country PR when it comes to the $10 million stakes. Okay, so how does it work? This is what we do. You've got to be 18 at a minimum in order to apply, and you put $10 million into qualifying investment asset classes. As I've said, You've got to show ownership of these funds for at least 2 years prior to submitting the application. And normally what you do is you instruct a CPA to certify as to your ownership and your overall net worth for the purposes of this, and it speeds up.
I was going to say, is there a source of funds requirement there? Is there a requirement to determine where the money came from?
In so much as you've got to show that you've owned it for 2 years immediately prior. That's right. Yeah. Okay, so you invest within 6 months in permissible invested asset classes, and then you get the visa that you're looking for. There's got to be effectively no criminal record or any security objection to you being able to come to Hong Kong under this program. And as I say, you've got to have something more than just the $10 million. You've got to be able to finance yourself without recourse to the return that you might otherwise make from that investment. So what are the investment asset classes? Well, Hong Kong listed equities, Hong Kong dollar traded, Hong Kong denominated government or listed debt, certificates of deposits issued by Hong Kong banks in Hong Kong dollars, subordinated debt, certain funds which the Immigration Department approved from time to time as being capable of qualifying under the program, and a combination of all of this, but not real estate. Did you have a question? No? Okay. All right. Good. Okay. Great. Good. Okay. So the approval outcomes. So this is how it works. So if you've invested in the 6 months immediately prior to submitting your application, you follow a different pathway to approval than if you intend to invest within 6 months of the approval in principle process being utilized. So if you've got the 6 months, you're on your way. If you haven't, if you've already invested within 6 months, you're on your way. If you haven't invested, you plan to invest within 6 months of having made the application, you go through the approval in principle route. And if you're a foreign national wanting to be here in order to participate in the program, in order to give you the time that you need to organize the investment, you can get a visitor visa, normally issued for 3 months and extendable for another 3 months up to an absolute maximum of 6 months. So this is really about the Chinese that we're talking about here. And so then once the investment has been made, you get your formal approval. Once you're formally approved, you get a 2-year visa, giving you landing anytime within 2 years after the issue, which is unusual because normally it's a 90-day period that you have to land after issue of the visa. And then, as I say, 2-year extensions are available on the basis that you've maintained that portfolio throughout the preceding 7 years. And again, after 7 years, you can uplift the money at the point of making an application for the right of abode or unconditional stay. Yep. Okay, so more information on that is detailed on the Hong Kong Visa Handbook. One final point, though, is after 7 years, the spirit of the policy dictates that you shouldn't have to maintain your investment any longer. And so you can make an application for the right of abode, which is what the vast majority of people do because Hong Kong's normally become their only place of permanent residence in that time. But some people want to have a Capital Investment Entrant Scheme visa and want the facility to live here, but don't actually choose to come and live here full time. And after 7 years, they may not be in a position to make a declaration to the effect that they've taken Hong Kong as their only place of permanent residence, which is a key facet of the right of abode process. So because they're not going to be able to qualify for the right of abode, what do the Immigration Department make of that? And what they say is, well, if you don't qualify for the right of abode, you can apply for unconditional stay, which effectively gives you all the continuing privileges under the Capital Investment Entrant Scheme, but without having to have $10 million locked up. An unconditional stay means that the stay that you get has there's no limit to the amount of time that you can spend here, and there's no limit to the activities that you can engage in. And you get all the privileges associated with sponsoring dependent parents, which you can't have as a temporary resident under the Capital Investment Entrant Scheme. But unconditional stay is a bit of a misnomer because actually there is one condition appended to unconditional stay, and that is that you have to be physically present in Hong Kong on at least one occasion in any 12-month given period in order to maintain your unconditional stay status. But anyway, the Immigration Department make it easier to get unconditional stay if you're a Capital Investment Entrant Scheme holder, as we'll see when I talk about long stay and permanent residency in a moment. If you're a Capital Investment Entrant Scheme holder, because you've kept your money here for 7 years, you fulfill the spirit of the policy, and we don't think that you should now have to maintain that investment to maintain your life here. So we'll give you unconditional stay. You can uplift the money and you're on your way. That's if you don't qualify for the right of abode.
Yeah. So I just want to make clear, after 7 years, you can apply for unconditional stay, and then do whatever you want with your 10 million.
Correct.
You can deploy it. So that means no longer any ring fencing about that 10 million.
That's right.
That really means unconditional.
That's correct. That's unconditional stay.
But you have to maintain unconditional stay by coming around 15 years.
You need one landing in any 12-month period to maintain it.
You still have to keep doing that.
Yeah, the idea is that they'll give you unconditional stay indefinitely as long as you maintain your connection to Hong Kong. And the only thing you need to do to maintain your connection to Hong Kong is make one landing in any 12-month given period. That's it. It's very simple to maintain.
So I just want to make it sure, because this is very critical questions. So it's 100% correct that it's unconditional after 7 years. Because sometimes when I call up the immigration, they say, okay, after 7 years, if you are not eligible for the right of abode, you can still stay in Hong Kong, but you need to maintain that 10 million. Some officers did say that.
That's not true.
Not true. Okay. Okay. Yep.
Which is a big thing for me to say, right? I mean, I'm not an immigration officer, but the reality is that's not true. And actually, if you look on the website, you'll see that there's policy stated to that effect. Look, the immigration officers, it depends who you speak to, they're not experts in every facet of immigration. So much stuff, right? You just can't be an expert in everything. Yeah.